I just wanted to do that for Dr. Lorenz. Welcome, everybody. We have a lot of guests this evening, and we are going to begin with our oath of office to swear in our new board members. So I'm going to hand the meeting over to John Espy for the moment.
Do you actually, I should start with, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as member of the Board of Education of the Loveland City School District, Hamilton County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? Congratulations. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as member of the Board of Education of the Loveland City School District, Hamilton County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? Congratulations.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome all of our guests this evening. We have a fair number of people in the audience to come support our new board members. I was going to say for our exciting meeting, but probably just to support our new board members. And with that, I would like to call our special board organizational meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please, Mr. Espy?
Reverend Eilert. Here. Mrs. Jaranek.
Here.
Mrs. Mangan.
Here.
Dr. Swetchenow.
Here.
Mrs.
Here.
Washburn.
Here. All right. And if I do something wrong, Dr. Lorenz throws something at me from the audience. Would like to adopt the agenda for the organization and work session meeting agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. And Mr. Espy, can we get a roll call?
Mrs. Mangan.
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek.
Yes.
Reverend Eilert.
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow.
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn.
Yes. I'd now like to invite everybody to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, once again, welcome everyone. And now for my favorite part, where we get to have an election for our president of the Loveland Board of Education for 2024. I would like to open the floor to nominations for president of the board for 2024. Do we have any nominations?
I can nominate Jonathan.
All right, and we do not need a second for that. Reverend Eilert, do you accept that nomination?
I accept the nomination.
All right, and then somebody has to close it.
Well, we want to see if there are any additional nominations.
Any additional nominations? No. Okay. So can I move to close the nominations for president then? And can we have a roll call to vote on the nomination of Reverend Eilert for president?
First close and then vote. We do vote twice. I'm in charge of policy now.
Passed your
Like-
first test, Eric.
So,
I'll move to close the nomination.
And now vote.
now you'll need a motion in a second.
We've got a motion from Lynn to close the nominations.
Then I second.
Great.
Love it when a
Actually-
plan comes together.
Time out. We're going to take a vote now
Yeah.
to close.
Yep. Oh, okay.
That's what I thought we were doing.
Okay.
Perfect.
Go
Good.
ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah.
John.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes?
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchina.
Yes.
Now a motion in
So
a second.
Eric, Dr. Schweitzer moved to appoint Reverend Eilert as the president of the Board of Education for 2024. Is there any discussion? Okay, can we vote on that?
Still need a
So
second.
we need to have a motion and a
I thought we
second.
didn't have to have a second. You
Yeah,
just
right here.
said. Well, I
I'm just
know
making
that
this
says
hard.
it.
This is what happens when Kathy's not in charge.
I know, I told you I didn't want to be in charge.
So moved.
Second. Where are my notes, Kathy? In years past, she has written me notes, so. All right. So now can we vote on that?
Yes. Dr. Swetchina,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan.
Yes.
Can we switch and then do vice president?
We're good. Congratulations,
Are we
Jonathan.
done? All of you. Told you guys it's my least favorite day of the year.
You did great. You did way better than I would have done. 100%.
Thank you, Eileen.
Okay, Dr. Policy.
Dr. Policy. That's a good name, new name for him, Dr. Policy. I like it.
Kind of came out. Yeah.
Okay, so the floor is now open for nominations for vice president for 2024.
I would like to nominate Lynn Mingan.
Great. Are there any additional nominations? Well, first of all, do you accept the nomination?
I accept it.
Are there any additional nominations for vice president? We have a motion to close the nominations for vice president.
So moved.
And a roll call to close the nominations.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes?
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchina.
Yes.
Excellent. So now do we have a motion to appoint Lynn Mangan as the vice president of the Board of Education?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on election? Can we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Swetchina,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations, Lynn, on being elected vice president.
Congratulations, Reverend Eilert. Sorry.
Thank you.
Remiss in that.
Thank you. We also, one of the people we didn't recognize as new to our meeting here is Mr. Espy. Thank you for being here and agreeing to be our new treasurer. We're excited to have you on board at the district and look forward to many years of service moving forward. So we have next on our agenda the establishment of the times and places and dates of the Board of Education meetings for this next calendar year. And everyone had those ahead of time. We had some discussion of this back in December. And
And so far, I know there's one potential issue in June on the 25th. Eileen's going to be out of town on that week, so we can circle that one. Are there any additional ones we need further discussion about this evening?
I have to put the pressure on my 12-year-old and say only if her soccer team advances.
There you go.
Let's just review real fast. Is if there's a problem in June, do we know our time frame? Because June's an important meeting
Yeah.
for hiring for the next year, if I remember correctly. Okay.
And they're also just closing, piece of closing the fiscal year. So it's nice to have it as close to the end of the month as possible. At least on my end of things.
But John, from your standpoint, if we ended up running into the first week of July, that wouldn't be catastrophic for you. There's nothing that we have to do before July 1st.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if anyone wants to sneak out.
It's just
all the fun stuff.
it's a really long time for us. So in lieu of that, I would say like maybe going a week earlier would be better.
Yeah, I'll be gone
in
the first
terms
week
of-
of July too.
Okay.
We go on vacation.
Yeah, it runs right into the 4th.
Yeah.
I just don't have solid plans yet for what we're doing this summer. I should be good by the 25th, but I just wanted to make sure. I would definitely say to put that on the books for now. Then we'll
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not here, you guys don't need me.
Okay, so we think we have at least 4 for that meeting at this point, and then, because we know we have a conflict the week before as well, Christina, so we'll leave it at the 25th, and if we need to change that later, we can. Any other issues on any of these other meetings? And just a note again, noticing December, right now we don't have any meetings scheduled. We might do what we did again last year at that point to do an organizational meeting. Anything else? All right, do we have a motion then to approve our calendar for this next year?
So moved.
For a second?
I'll second.
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow.
Yes.
Excellent. Just for the public's sake, the actual motion said that this will be on the 3rd Tuesday of each month unless otherwise noted at 6 p.m. in the Media Center at the Loveland Middle Intermediate School cafeteria, just so we're clear, 6 o'clock here. Those are for the regular meetings. Our work sessions this year, we do intend to have down in the board office in the conference room. So regular sessions here, work sessions will be down in the board office. And the doors will be unlocked for both. All right, agenda item number 4, annual board resolutions. And you can see those there. There are several policies that by law we are required to review and vote on specifically, and we'll be looking at policies in whole at our next meeting. We'll be talking more about that before that meeting, but these have to be enacted at this meeting along with the resolution that we have before us. We want to read this whole resolution or read this out loud? Let's read it out loud. All right. The motion is to authorize the treasurer to submit membership of the Loveland Board of Education with OSBA Legal Assistance Fund, the Alliance for Adequate School Funding, and the Little Miami River Area Chamber of Commerce and Claremont County Chamber of Commerce to establish a board service fund not to exceed the maximum allowed by law for the Loveland City Board of Education as authorized by Ohio Revised Code Section 3315.15. Appoint the business manager of the Loveland City Schools as purchasing agent for the Loveland City School District with maximum authorization up to $50,000. Authorizes the treasurer to attend public records training as designee to the board, administration, and appointees to Loveland City committees. To approve the following firms to provide legal services to the Loveland City School District: Ennis Britton, LPA, and Dismore and Scholl. To appoint the superintendent as chief executive officer of the Board of Education to conduct the board's business as deemed necessary and in consultation with the board. At times, the board is not in session. Any action is pursuant to approval by the Board of Education at the next regular board meeting. Authorize the superintendent on behalf of the board to accept resignations which have been submitted by employees during times the board is not in session, subject to ratification by this board, provided, however, that upon ratification by the board, such resignations shall be deemed effective as of the date and time of the superintendent's acceptance. This authorization must be renewed at each year's organizational meeting. Authorize the superintendent to employ necessary personnel on a temporary basis until such time as the Board of Education is able to take official action and to approve complementary passes a resolution. That's for athletic events and such. And also, I believe those get used for concerts and things at the school as well. And then the review of the policies that are listed here. And those are all things that are standard each year that we have to do as we begin our new organizational year. Questions about any of those? Comments, concerns?
And I bring this up probably for you and Stacy more than anything else. My understanding is that the third grade reading guarantee language has changed for this year. Am I right or wrong about that? And you don't need to answer right now. I only bring it up in that I see that that's one of the ones that we're required to review. Okay. All right.
Yes, let me tell you real quick. One of the changes was after personnel. Previously, if a kiddo did not hit the benchmark on the assessment, I'll walk over to the microphone.
Yeah.
The vice president. Start doing the job. Yeah. So the biggest change was previously the kiddo did not meet.
Thank you.
That's why we don't let you
Previously, yeah, thank you. That makes sense. Previously, if a kiddo hadn't hit certain benchmarks, they were required to be retained in third grade or promoted in fourth grade with certain criteria that we had to meet and different things we had to do. The change was now parents can kind of overrule that. So a parent can say, I know my kiddo didn't hit that benchmark, but I still would like him or her promoted to fourth grade. So that was the biggest change. And then there are other changes, like Mike said, that Mr. Broadwater said that we're working through and that we're continuing to monitor and make sure we're ready to roll. And I can tell you, Jen Foran and the LES team have this, and it's something we check almost every single day because we want to make sure all of our kids meet the guarantee and are ready to go to fourth grade.
Perfect. Thanks. And I appreciate the explanation for that and the changes because I remember that there was a change, but not exactly what it was. And I'll make sure that when we have a conversation about policy that's included.
Excellent. Any other questions about any other pieces of this group of resolutions? All right, do we have a motion then to approve annual
moved.
board resolution?
Second.
Who made the motion?
Me.
Eric, I seconded.
Once. Mr. Espy, can we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Swetchenow,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion approved. All right. Number 5 are tax advances. Treasurer requests the board authorization to request tax advances from the county auditors. John, you want to give us a little explanation of this?
Yeah, happy to. Typically, if we did not request advances, we would only get 2 essential paychecks as a school district from property taxes. So what this allows us to do is ask for them in advance, essentially frees up some of our cash flow potential issues, and it also allows us to make interest on those payouts.
Any other questions about that? All right, do we have a motion then to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion approved. Number 6, representatives to Loveland City Council committees. And we need to appoint our board representatives to each of these committees. And these are folks that have been currently serving in these roles, except for John, obviously is new, although he had actually been on that committee, right, in a different capacity. So familiar with their work. One of the things we discussed at our agenda meeting was trying to be a little more intentional this year and having these folks report out and having you, Mr. Broadwater, kind of coordinate with them at a time that would be appropriate for them to come during the year to give us some input on what they're been doing in those roles that are pertinent to our work here as a school board. So I feel that would be helpful for us to make sure we make those connections. Does anyone have any questions about these appointments? We need a motion for appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, and roll call, please.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yep.
Dr. Swetchenow.
Yes.
Motion approved. Thank you. All right, and now we have our district committee representatives to look at. The board administration discuss the organization, frequency, and implementation of the committee structure. The board will identify which board members will volunteer as representatives on these administrative committees. And we've had some, and then the board administration will plan dates and times of committee meetings. We've already had some discussion about this as board members. We talked about it at our December meeting as well, and some subsequent conversation about that. So I think we're fairly set on these. The one I didn't get final confirmation on was the facilities committee.
Eric.
Okay, Eric's going to be serving on the facilities committee with me, as long as that's okay with everyone. And finance committee, we had Eric and Lynn penciled in there to do that. Student experience was Christina and Eileen. Policy committee was Eric and me again. Business Advisory Council was Eileen, has been doing that for a number of years again. And the discussion we had too was to add a committee for the Communications Committee. And Lynn and Christina had volunteered to serve there. So as long as we're still all in agreement, we will establish that new committee as well.
And which district employees will be on it, like working with them?
Andrew would be the primary point of contact for that, having input there as well. All right, any other committees that
We need to do the OSBA delegates here. Because I think it'd be a great time to do that to make sure we solidify Eric's spot.
I think that would be excellent too.
I don't see that on the agenda. Do we have to amend the agenda?
I don't know, or we can do it later. Supposed to, but I'm just saying unofficially then, OSBA delegate.
Expectation is there. Do your time.
In the past, the problem has been that I haven't put that on my calendar and then I'm on call. So this year I have plenty of notice.
But did you actually put it on your calendar?
No.
It's almost like
Oh.
I'll send you a calendar.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. All right, any additional discussion, any changes that we want to see to the list as just shared? Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Then do we have a motion to approve the designations for committees for this next year?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mr. Etheridge.
Actually, so these are discussion
Yeah.
topics. We don't have to approve them.
Oh, all right. Excellent. So you're all there. Good.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So next we have the superintendent's update.
Thank you. Adam, are you able to pull that up?
So I want to start off and say congratulations to Mrs. Jernick for being selected and being so unselfish as to serve on a board of education. I don't know if there's a bigger sacrifice for a community than serving on a local board of education. And congratulations and thank you to Lynn Mangan, Miss Mangan as well. I'm excited to work with you, and I appreciate your family. I know they were here, and I appreciate them sharing you with us, because there are going to be times that they have to step up because you're doing this. So I appreciate it very much. Congratulations. Mr. Cole said it. A promotion on your very first day. That's pretty nice, Vice President. Congratulations to Lynn and Reverend Eilert. Congratulations. I look forward to working with you as well. I will say Lynn Mangan has picked up the gauntlet where Dr. Lorenz, who's in the audience, left. I did get a Snickers from Lynn this evening in case I turn into Betty White. And Mr. Jouffre, our former treasurer, is here. I want to say thank you again for setting us up where we are. And I want to welcome Mr. Espy, getting to know John. I've known John for a few years now. I'm really excited to work with Mr. Espy and just keep doing the great work that we're doing. So welcome to everybody, and thanks for being here. So with that, hopefully I gave Adam enough time to get it up there. And with the superintendent update, just real quick, I thought what I would do, part of what the Board of Education has asked me to do is make sure that we're involving our community in discussions. It's important. As we went through the levy cycle, a lot of what I would hear is we only communicate when we ask for money, right? And we want to make sure that's not who we are. We want to make sure we're communicating as much as we can. So one of the ideas that we put together this year was our grandparents and great influences. We wanted to make sure we included all the kiddos that maybe their grandparents weren't able to attend, and any other great influence in their life was able to attend. The purpose really was to recognize the importance of grandparents and other older community members, invite in our community to see the work that happens in our buildings each and every day. It was held during 2 weeks in December. We thought over the holidays, maybe it would be a good idea. We're going to reevaluate, see if that makes sense. I know our staff worked very hard, but it seemed to go very, very well. But we're going to look at it again and make sure that we're doing the best we can. And the community engagement, we're always going to move back to why are we doing it? It's in our strategic vision, and community engagement is a large part of what we're trying to do. So the results, we had visitors from Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Maryland. We had a bunch of other states. Grandparents are never going to turn down an invite from a grandchild to come, and it was awesome. It was a great day. I love seeing everybody that is important in our kids' lives. We had at our early childhood center over 600 visitors. At our primary school, we had over 700. Our elementary schools over 800. And then you can see, they see, well, they're doing okay. We can relax a little bit. So at our intermediate, we had 500, middle school 500, our high school, we had over 100, about 120. So really over 3,200 individuals. And whether they lived in the community or not, it's just a good thing to do for grandparents and community members, to let them see all the great work our staff does each and every day. So I would consider it a great response, and we'll look to continue to do that. Some of the feedback I did receive, we had somebody write, I thought it was amazingly organized and a great experience for the child and the grandparents. It was very well thought out and well run. The staff and administration in that building need a shout out. They did a tremendous job. I wasn't sure what to expect when I decided to attend. Everything about the day exceeded my expectations. Well done. So we like that kind of feedback. The second one, receiving a note of appreciation from our grandson was very special to us. Seeing him in his high school environment was fun and gave us some insight. Seeing the energy of the assistant principal and facilitating the event was inspiring. What a great opportunity to create dialogue. And the third one we're sharing, I want to share the experience my parents had this week. They cannot stop talking about how much fun they had. What they really appreciated was how personalized the experience was, from the creative board game made by the student to the Mad Libs, which they said made them laugh until they cried, to the questions about their generation, all provided a chance to meaningfully interact with their granddaughter. My parents have called me, I'm not sure this is good feedback or not, but my parents have called me 3 times to talk about it. Well done, LIS. So just a little insight as to that's why we're here, is to make sure we're taking care of kids and families. And I think it was an awesome event for our buildings. Last thing I will give you is our town hall meetings. We've had a couple. We wish they would be better attended. We had about 30 to 40 in each of those. But again, it goes back to
our community engagement as part of our strategic vision. We do have Wednesday, February 7th at 6 o'clock at the elementary school. We'd invite everybody to. And then Wednesday, the 28th at 6 at our middle school. We've already held a couple town halls on 4th of October, 8th of November. And all of the feedback that we've received, we have under a tab online where it says Town Hall Community Engagement. District-wide surveys are still open and we're collecting feedback. You can visit our website where it says Engage to learn more, and you can RSVP if you want to attend. You don't have to, but you can RSVP to give us an idea. And the last thing, I thought I would take a couple of minutes, and Andrew Setters, who is our Director of Communications and Community Engagement, provided a video in response to how some of the individuals who attended felt. So, Adam, I think we can play that.
I like the format that it gave us a subject to talk about versus everybody coming in saying, hey, this is the thing I wanted to talk about, which might have taken us off in crazy directions.
Talking with other people allows to hear different perspectives and to be able to snowball off of each other and understand somebody else's point of view.
I'm learning a lot here. I think this is a really interesting format. I wouldn't call it a town hall. I feel like it's more of a workshop, and an ideation session. This is really neat, and I think it's very educational.
I think it's very helpful because I get to know what's going on in the district and some of the positive things that are happening, as well as some of the challenges. I'm going to leave here with a very positive feeling because I feel like things are certainly moving in a great direction.
I do like this format, and I think it's very good. And I also feel like it's a lot more inviting to express opinions on different issues.
I think it's amazing.
Oh, I would say absolutely come, because I've learned so much.
Get to know, what's happening in your school district and where we need support.
I wish more people would come because I think they're very informative, and it's just always great to be able to talk about what issues the school's facing.
So thanks to Andrew Setters for putting that together. Just a little snippet into what we're doing. I would echo, I would love for more people to show up, but whether we have 10 or 110, I will be there and enjoying it because I like talking to our community and see what they want out of our schools, what they want for our kids. Again, we've got a couple coming up. I know that as topics come, it's great to have conversation that's not geared around money. And so that was my first couple of years. So now it's really fun to sit and talk about where do we want to go with our kiddos and move forward. But there's always going to be hot topics that will get more people to show up. And that's what we want. We want good conversation that's positive and moving in a good direction. So with that, my report is complete. And thank you.
I wanted to comment that I'm not old enough to be, well, I guess I am old enough to be a grandparent, but hopefully not anytime soon. But I was invited to the Grandparents and Great Influences Day, and it was pretty phenomenal to watch. There were a lot of happy tears, and I was sitting next to somebody who drove in from Cleveland, and they were driving back the next week, or yeah, I think a week later, whatever the timing was for the elementary school. And she cried through the whole thing, and it was just awesome to see. There were soccer coaches there, parents, grandparents. There were a lot of older siblings, which I thought was awesome. And just the letters that the kids wrote to the people that they invited were impactful. And it was a nice event, and I appreciate what all of the buildings did. So. Oh, and the high school numbers are low, but I believe that was during finals week. Yeah. So
I'm just happy that they had it for the high school.
yes.
Because some schools have grandparents' days and don't always think of the high school students, so it's nice to include them.
Yeah, I will tell you, Mr. Spencer, our principal, when I asked him to do it, he's like, I don't know, we might have 20 or 30 because they get to the high school and they're older. It's tougher to wrangle, right? But he was amazed. We had probably about 125 and a lot of positives coming out of it. So yeah, it was pretty well attended. And the hope is if you get a rhythm every year and people know what to expect, it just gets a little better, and we'll tweak it every year to make sure we're accommodating as much as we can. Some of the constructive criticism was the time of the year because it's a busy time of the year. The thought is holidays are kind of family time, and we've got our choirs ready to go with a bunch of good songs that we can use with grandparents who love that, and they love to hear the recorder. Somebody who's going to be a grandparent, I'm being facetious. I don't want to hear the, but I think it was a great 2 weeks.
Well, that was a nice touch too, that Miss Birkin was there with
Yes.
the orchestra. Well, a subset of the orchestra.
Yep.
So that was a really nice touch too.
And Mike, just like closing the loop on it too, the Grandparents' Day was a recommendation that had come out of the Board Planning Commission Communications Group that we had before your time. So
Oh,
2020,
really?
2021. So it's really great to see it come to fruition. And I think it also serves as a blueprint, like as we've talked about the calendar for next year, that we're going to have Veterans Day, that we're in school on Veterans Day. So I think having more events where we're bringing in, we can learn from this one and say what works well for Veterans Day as well.
Right. And we've talked to our principals. I know it seems like you're just inviting people in, but it does require work. And we want to make sure the staff, we're not putting too much on the staff, but we want to make sure we do it the right way. So talking through it now, but you're right. Veterans Day, we in next year, the following, I think we're in next year. So we'll be talking to our principals about what's that going to look like as well, inviting people in and celebrating our veterans. Yep.
One other thing, just to also double back on, are those town hall meetings, and it'd be great to have board representation there as well to listen and hear what concerns and things that the community are excited about. So if you all can check your calendars for that as well, and we can just exchange emails later to make sure we've got at least somebody from the board going to each of those town hall meetings. Any other questions, comments for Mr. Broadwater?
Eric will send you a calendar invite. Town halls.
All right, that completes the superintendent's items, and now we move on to the treasurer. And the treasurer recommends the board approve its 2025 tax budget. The budget presentation is based upon the 5-year forecasts submitted to the Ohio Department of Education in November and is included with the alternative tax budget as permitted by the Hamilton County Auditor. Any more things to say about that?
Essentially, all we do with this is take the forecast and convert it from fiscal year to calendar year. Hamilton County has a modified tax budget that's slightly nuanced, and I just want to recognize the previous treasurer, Rob Jaffray, for all of his hard work. He actually obviously put together the forecast that was filed in November, and then actually put this together, and I reviewed it. So
excellent. All right, do we have a motion and a second to approve the 2025 tax budget?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Espy, can we please have a roll call?
Mrs. Washburn?
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow?
Yes.
Reverend Eilert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek?
Yes.
Mrs. Megan?
And that will be on board docs for anybody who wants to review it, correct?
It's on board docs, and it's also on the treasurer webpage.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Now, little wrinkle here. Normally, this is all we do on this evening is do these particular pieces of organization for our next year, but we have one item that we also need to do. And so we've kept that as a separate meeting. So we're going to close this meeting, and then we will call to order a special meeting of the board to conduct that additional business. So do we have a motion to adjourn this organizational meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right. And it is 39. So we have a roll call, please, to adjourn the meeting at 6:39.
Mrs. Washburn?
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek?
Yes.
Reverend Eilert?
Yes.
Mrs. Mengen?
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow?
Yes.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. For you. Okay, so now we will call to order the special meeting at 6:39. We have a roll call, please, for this meeting.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, so we need to adopt our agenda then for this meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
Great. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow, Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn.
Yes.
Thank you. We are still rolling at this point, correct? Okay, so at this point then, we will go into executive session. And for those who are watching at home, this is really just simply because of the timing for employment for Mr. Espy. We knew coming into this that there was a potential conflict in his beginning date, given his completion of his work in Milford. And so we need to do an adjustment for that and amend his contract just for this next month to accommodate that. So we're going to go into executive session to discuss that, since it is about the employment of an employee. And then we will come back out of executive session and record that, so that it's clear doing. All right. Hopefully that's clear as mud. Do we have a motion then to go into executive session?
So moved.
We have a second.
You see this?
All right. So we have a motion to enter an executive session pursuant to ORC section 121.22, about employee and compensation of a public employee. We have a roll call, please.
Dr. Swetchenow?
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We will
6:41.
go into executive session at 6:42, and we will then be back to record the conclusion after that discussion. All right, the Board of Education is coming back into session at 7:02, ending our executive session. And we now need a motion to approve the employment of John Espy for the position of treasurer effective January 1st, 2024.
Do you want to amend the agenda first?
We decided we didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, we
we
need to do that.
Sorry, I walked out the door too soon.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So do we have a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Schwetznau moved, Eileen seconded.
Sure.
That works.
And now we have this motion before us. This is simply a addendum to the contract that was approved this last month, again, because of timing with the completion of Mr. Espy's work in Milford. For this next month, his contract now will be on an hourly basis while he completes his work until January 31st, and then he will officially begin his work as a full-time treasurer with Loveland February 1. And that addendum will be available for everyone on board docs. Any additional discussion? What's before us? Any questions? Then can we have a roll call, please, to approve the addendum?
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Dr. Schwetznau?
Yes.
Reverend Eilert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek?
Yes.
Mrs. Mengen?
Yes.
All right, and I believe that concludes all of our work for this special meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
To adjourn. We have a roll call, please.
Dr. Schwetznau?
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn?
Yes.
Reverend Eilert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek?
Yes.
Mrs. Mengen?
Yes.
Excellent. Motion approved. And the meeting is adjourned at 7:04.